Hello, students, and here we are already in week 2, and we are looking at learning objective, the last day of week 2, 8.5, where we're going to be describing some of the strategies and techniques used by organizations to improve employee motivation. So we want to look at a manager's job, which is quite complex. And understanding what motivates workers is only part of the manager's job. The other part is applying the knowledge to what they know with the motivation. In other words, you're trying to create a positive culture. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is reinforcement behavior modification, and talk about positive reinforcement, punishment, and then social learning. Positive reinforcement is used when a company or a manager provides a reward when employees exhibit certain types of desired behaviors. Punishment, on the other hand, is used to change behavior by presenting people with unpleasant consequences if they exhibit undesired behaviors. Social learning occurs when people observe the behaviors of others and recognize their consequences and alter their own behavior as a result. Now, positive reinforcement could be a lot of things. It could be, your employee of the month, they give you a parking space, or you get a bonus for completing a job early. Or the other thing is that even in a lot of places, you're given promotions when you show to do more than others do. Punishment, in a sense, consequences to things would be coming into work late all the time. They write you up. Um, Not keeping up with the standards of the team. So you might have been a supervisor, now you get a demotion. Those types of things. Social learning is really looking at what happens to others positively or negatively and not wanting it to happen to you, so you do observations, wanting to have it to you because you see that if you work hard, you get promoted. So that talks about reinforcement behavior modification. Now, using goals to motivate behavior has a lot to do with MBO, or management by objectives. And that is a system of collaborative goal setting that, again, people working together throughout all levels of an organization. MBO is primarily concerned with implementation of plans in organizations. So, because employees contribute to setting the goals, they should accept and be committed to achieving them. So, here again, employees participate in the goals themselves rather than just the leaders handing down direction from the top down. Participative management and empowerment is another tool of motivation. In participative management and empowerment, employee suggestions and opinions are welcome. Employees feel like they're more part of the organization, and I talked about this in past classes, and they're more committed to the firm's goals if they have helped to shape them. Why? Because you're a part of the legacy that is successful. So a key to success in this case is to invite participation only to the extent that employees want to have input, and only if participation will have real value to the organization. Then we look at team structure. What is the structure of how the team is put together? Some companies benefit from using what they refer to as team management. Now, although teams are often less effective in traditional and more centrally controlled and rigidly based structures like bureaucratic organizations, these team structures can help smaller, more flexible organizations make decisions quickly and more effectively. That is, flattening the organization so you don't have so many levels of decision making. Decisions made more quickly because a lot more is being delegated throughout the organization. Also, it enhances communication in the company. It also encourages organizational members to feel more like a part of an organization. Then there is job enrichment and job redesign. Both of these programs typically increase worker satisfaction in jobs that lack a lot of motivating factors. So let's break that down. Let's look at job enrichment programs first. These programs attempt to add motivating factors to different job activities. They can involve job rotation programs or increasing responsibility or recognition. A lot of companies that are successful in doing this are Apple and Google. They are very big, and even some of the larger insurance companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield. Now, on the other hand, job redesign programs attempt to create a better fit between employees and their jobs by restructuring their work. So employees are more committed. They're more conducive to less boring and more challenging types of job responsibilities in the course of the day. Job redesign can usually be combined or carried out through combining tasks, forming natural work groups, or establishing client relationships. When we combine tasks, we enlarge jobs and increase their variety, and it makes employees feel like their work is more meaningful, and this is a much more motivating type of concept. The other thing I mentioned was forming natural work groups. People who perform different jobs on the same projects are candidates for natural work groups that help employees see the place and importance of their jobs within the total structure of the firm. And I talked about this in a lot of previous classes where employees know where they fit in the organization. They know that when they were hired to make a significant difference. And no matter how high or low they are on the totem pole, as far as the hierarchy is concerned, employees feel important. And then the other thing is establishing client relationships. Allowing employees to interact with customers can increase job variety and give workers both a greater sense of control, and also through the customer, you can get more feedback about your performance. And the last thing I want to talk about here is modified work schedules. We have work share programs that we could talk about. And these programs allow employees to share a single full-time job. Yes. And again, mentioning companies like Blue Cross and other insurance companies, they do a lot of this work share. Employees appreciate the schedule flexibility to accommodate their personal needs, and firms can reduce turnover and save on the cost of benefits. In other words, they essentially are doing a SWOT analysis of employee strengths and weaknesses within a company and employees work together and play off of each other. The other thing, flex time programs and alternative workplace strategies. Flex time programs allow workers to choose their working hours by adjusting a standard work schedule. If they actually did this on the road, it would probably decrease a lot of bottleneck traffic. But using flex time work programs is important because employees can adjust their hours satisfying their needs. For example, if they have small children at home, they might be able to accommodate rather than having to hire a babysitter, and they could work from home certain times. They could come to work in hours that one partner can take over for the other, and that would be kind of good if they didn't have, employers didn't have such rigid hours, if it could work. Then you have alternative workplaces. A rapidly growing number of U.S. workers do a significant portion of their work via telecommuting. Yes, that is using their electronics, their Bluetooth in their cars. They can get a lot of things done. They might even be able to have conference calls as long as they don't lose their concentration. And telecommuting allows employees to perform some of all of their jobs away from standard office settings. Some may even be visiting with a client and bring in different companies to that client, and they might be able to not have to travel there and see them on a big screen using a lot of the different tools we have, like GoToOffice, Skype, GoToMeeting, all of those things. Then we have advantages, and let's talk about some of the advantages and disadvantages of modified schedules when it comes to alternative workplaces. Some advantages include more freedom in employees' personal lives, ability of employees to coordinate work with family member schedules, increased sense of freedom for employees, and ultimately they have a higher commitment and satisfaction for employees all around. Now, let's talk about some of the disadvantages of modified schedules and alternative workplaces. That may include the difficulty of accurately tracking working hours, lack of self-discipline to work without supervision, as well as the lack of social interaction available in the workplace. And honestly, this is a great example of what we're doing now. We're doing online teaching and learning where we don't have that physical interaction to see body language and respond to things and be able to share the exact same synergy we would have if we were doing a physical class or face-to-face. However, it's the best alternative we have, and hopefully we can draw on some of the things that we knew made teaching and learning effective. It applies the same way to the workplace. And then employee perceptions that unobserved workers, employer perceptions that unobserved workers are not actually working. So essentially, this is all I'm going to do for phase 1 of this lecture video on Objective 8.5. And now I am going to ask you to do a 10-minute reflection on what I talked about, and then I'll give you a recap on this section and on the whole week's work. Professor DeChico.